Hi, it's Mercedes from brightstarwoman.com. I'm here to share some information about essential oils. So I've put together a 30-minute class that is meant as a bit of a primer. So it's just basic information about essential oils and how to use them in your current lifestyle. So basically, what are essential oils and how do you use them, right? And then talking about a few classic essential oils and what they're used for. So, what are essential oils? Usually, when we think essential oils, we think aromatherapy, but often we don't really know what essential oils really are. So essentially, they're a naturally occurring volatile aromatic compound that comes from seeds, bark, stems, roots, flowers, or other parts of a plant or tree, and so on. And it's an essence that they release that helps protect them against environmental threats, and who, for us humans and perhaps even pets, provide beneficial properties. So they're highly concentrated essential oils when they're distilled for purity, potency, and efficacy. So there are different ways of producing essential oils which will determine the quality of an oil. So certain plants or certain fruit or flowers need to be processed differently in order to keep their highest potency or benefits. So for example, with citrus-based oils, we'll have a process called cold press, so it doesn't transform what makes the citrus beneficial, basically. Essential oils were also used historically in food preparation, beauty treatment, healthcare practices, and natural health products. Some classic oils include orange, so like wild orange, and ways to use orange is either in cleansing your home, adding it to water for a burst of flavor, or perhaps even chocolate if you're making dessert. And you can also diffuse it for an energizing aroma in your home. But we'll talk a bit about the ways in which you can use oils. And I mentioned that you could add it to water or chocolate, but it'll be really important to make sure that your oil is actually a food grade oil. Otherwise, it's a safety concern, right? Then another classic oil would be frankincense, which is used to reduce the appearance of skin imperfections. So it's really good to put in like your facial lotion or facial cleanser, or even a little bit in, I think it's pretty safe to use sunscreen. I'd have to look that up. And also frankincense helps your cells regenerate. So frankincense is good, namely for skin, but as well for people who are trying to recover from cancer, for example, or who are in remission already and want to keep encouraging a healthy regeneration of cells and a rewriting of their DNA. So this is debated, but it is very useful for skin and healthy regeneration of cells. So that's frankincense. One of the ways to use it is directly on your skin, but you can also use it aromatically, smell it. And if you want to have a lot of those immediate impact, you would apply oil to your hands, feet, or the back of your neck, which is a more direct connection to your central nervous system. All right. So next up on our list, we want to distinguish the difference between like what are pure essential oils, what are fillers, synthetic oils, dilution, purity, what does that all mean? Basically, there is not enough regulation out there with the oils to really determine where oils come from, and it takes very little to say essential oil. So what happens is that what's available often on the market in pharmacies are synthetic oils, which are made in the lab, for example, that often have very little of the actual plant, fruit, or flower in it, or none at all even, which then would mean it's not necessarily unsafe, but it's also not actually useful for what it's supposed to do. So for example, I had a client tell me that she'd bought lavender at like a big box store and that her daughter still wasn't sleeping properly and wasn't even feeling relaxed before bed. And then she started reading the label and there wasn't even any lavender in the lavender essential oil. So this is kind of the effect you have when you have a synthetic oil, or you either don't read the label or you don't know where the oil is from. Then there's the idea of fillers. So sometimes they'll use a base of an oil and then add other chemical compounds, which may or may not be safe. But in any case, also reduces the efficacy of the oil. Then you have the principle of purity, which is how much of the actual essential oil are you getting in the bottle. So let's say we're using, I don't know, an orange, and we're trying to get the oil from the skin, right? And you end up having other things mixed in with this because the process isn't streamlined or ensuring the purity of there's only orange that ends up in there. There's not, dust and other things and perhaps other parts of that plant that end up in the oil during the process of making it. So again, not a scientist. So I'm just trying to simplify concepts in ways that we can easily understand them. But if these things interest you, please look them up, do your research. And then there's also dilution, and dilution is using a little bit of an oil and then mixing it either, well, most dilution is done with another oil, so what we call a carrier oil, which is fine and perfectly safe if you're using it on your skin. But if you're expecting to buy a pure oil and you realize that there's only 5% in the bottle that's actual lavender, for example, then what are you paying for? Are you paying for that carrier oil that you can make yourself or buy yourself at home? So you wonder, like, what justifies the price of the bottle, and how are you going to use something that isn't as pure as what they say it is? So that's just a little bit about what essential oils are, really. My personal oil story, how I got to use essential oils in the first place, as I said, I'm not a scientist. I come from the perspective of holistic healing and natural solutions. My mom was, for many years, a massage therapist and orthotherapist, and she used a lot of essential oils in her work. And as a teenager, she wanted to introduce me to solutions that I could use to help empower me and look towards natural options for my health as opposed to medicating myself, which is not necessarily bad for you if you really need it, but sometimes there's a gentler, more natural, holistic approach to things. So that was just the perspective in which she brought essential oils to my life. So I started using them partly for my sleep. I had very irregular sleep as a teenager, so I started using pure lavender on my pillowcase, in like my eye patches, and sometimes I would even put a few drops like on the collar of my pajama or that type of thing, or on a blanket. Then I also used tea tree oil, which we're going to talk about, for my skin. As a teenager, I'd have a bit of breakouts and wanted to help that along for clearing my skin, so I used the melaleuca for that, or what's called tea tree. And I also used peppermint for some of the headaches I had. I would use a single drop on each temple and then put a little bit around my hairline, and within a few minutes the headache was usually gone, unless it was a migraine, in which case I needed a bit more help. So that was how I started using it, but I sort of was limited to those three at the time. And then in my 20s, I started using essential oils for cleaning. So I started using them in my home, diffusing it, as well as mixing it in with like my laundry detergent, my shampoo, mixing with sprays to clean, like multi-purpose cleaners, and how to clean my yoga mat, for example. And in the last few years, as I've developed more of my yoga practice and started teaching it, I've also started developing meditation sprays that I use at the beginning or end of class as kind of an added touch for my students. And more people were asking me, oh, well, I'd love to learn how to make them. I'd love to get my own oils. I'd like to buy mixes from you already done. So I realized I need to buy good quality oils that I could rely on at a reasonable price pretty quickly. So we'll circle around back to that in a little while, but that'll explain the partnership I chose to, the company I decided to partner with in order to make my own products. So ways in which you can use the oils, other than the obvious ways I've already mentioned, there are three main ways you can use essential oils. So there's the aromatic, which also reminds us of the word aromatherapy, right? So ways in which you can use them aromatically: you can put a little bit of oil in your hands, rub them together, and then smell them directly. You can smell the bottle, like this orange one. And then make sure you smell it in both nostrils, because they each register in your brain differently. And then, of course, you can use them in sprays or in a diffuser. So diffusers are usually little electric contraptions that you fill with a little bit of water and a few drops, and then it's mixed and turned into a vapor that's sent into the air to give off the aroma of whatever oil you're diffusing. Then there's the topical use. So, of course, you can just straight up put a few drops in your hands, but we're going to talk about safety issues around that. So if you were to put them directly on your skin, usually you would dilute it with a carrier oil. Some oils are safe to use in small quantities directly on your skin, just because, again, they're highly potent. So we don't want to create any kind of irritation or have something that's too strong for the sensitivity of our skin. So there's directly or there's diluted, and you can have something like this, which is a roller that you'd put directly on your skin once diluted with a carrier oil, right? So that's pretty much topically. So you could also wear it as a scent. I tend to use rollers and wear it on my pulse points, and I find that it's not as strong as a perfume, therefore or a cologne or an eau de toilette. It doesn't bother the people around me. I'm the only one who really smells it, unless somebody really steps into my personal space, and in which case it's still natural because I'm using essential oils. It doesn't protect, it doesn't have any fillers, so it's pretty safe to use in a scent-free or scent-aware environment, right? And then, of course, topical, you could mix it with a lotion, an unscented lotion you already have, that type of thing. And then internal uses, this is the part I was mentioning about being very careful that the oils you're using are actually food grade. Food grade means that they're safe to ingest. And usually a bottle will tell you right on the label, I don't know if you can see that, for aromatic, topical, and internal use, or aromatic and topical. So if it doesn't say internal use, you can't actually eat it because they can't guarantee that it's safe. But the company I chose to work with has food grade, which is wonderful. And the other thing is, if you're going to use it internally, you want to make sure that you dilute it. Absolutely. So you can't straight up drop on your tongue. First of all, it'll be too strong to taste, and it'll probably be a bit too intense. So I would dilute it with some water, either still or sparkling. Sparkling is really nice because it tends to have a little kick to it, and to me, it tends to replace soft drink pop, pretty much. And depending on the oil you use, I usually go 1 drop per glass of water, not more than that for safety concerns. And it's, as a general rule, it's easier to start with a little bit less and then increase than it is to start with too much and then be either sick or turned off by the whole process because it was too much too fast. This goes especially for citrus-based oils because they're very cleansing for the digestive system. So I would stick with 1 drop per glass of water. So that's for internal. And I also mentioned that topical you can put it on the back of your neck to absorb it. And best spots are hands and feet if you're going for the effect of the oil. So for example, if you know that eucalyptus is really good for your lungs, you'll want to smell it because it'll help with the lungs, but you'll also want to either put it on your hands or at the back of your neck to get that respiratory benefit. Okay. And then the next thing I wanted to discuss, other than the ways to use the oils, is the difference between a single oil and a blend. What is that? So we'll give you an example. A single oil is one thing. So let's say you have a peppermint. So that's all there is in this bottle. Or a lemon, just lemon. You get the idea. Whereas a blend will be a mix of several oils in order to create a specific aroma or effect, either topically or aromatically or internally, the 3 ways we use the oils. So here I have a Smart and Sassy blend, which is a metabolic blend. It's meant to be taken internally, and it helps regulate blood sugar. Again, it's not a replacement for proper medical advice, but it's a nice support to other efforts you might be doing in order to regulate your metabolism. One example. And then, of course, you have blends like this Clary Calm, which I love. This is a women's blend specifically. So used topically or aromatically, it's good for dealing with hormonal changes, balancing out our hormones, and helping with monthly cramps, right? So applied directly to the belly. So this is another one I go to frequently. So that's the difference between a single oil and a blend. And of course, you can make your own blends if you have, a few oils and you start reading up on, okay, well, what does this oil do and how can I use it? And can I use it with this oil? And what's this oil's purpose, right? So that could be another class. So I mentioned a few classic oils. I talked about orange. I talked about frankincense. Orange is very cleansing. It's uplifting. It's an alternative for sleep for lavender. And it is emotionally the oil of abundance, which is kind of interesting because they used to give oranges around Christmas. So, I don't know, it kind of gives us an idea of the abundance of it, right? Then there's the frankincense, which is really good for your skin. We talked about this. And then there's eucalyptus, also mentioned that, which is great for your respiratory system. It's also the oil of wellness, so helping you to realize that you are responsible for your own well-being and taking steps in order to honor yourself and be healthy in every sense of the word. Then there's tea tree that I mentioned, Melaleuca, which is, again, very cleansing, great for skin, as is frankincense. And tea tree is known to help with like skin inflammation or irritation. So if you have like a bug bite, you might want to put a little bit of tea tree and a little bit of lavender on it. Works wonders. And then there's a trifecta of oils that I really like. There's lavender, peppermint, and lemon. And in equal parts, this is a magic recipe for allergies. So if you're sensitive to airborne allergies, you'll want to mix lavender, peppermint, and lemon together in order to help clear the airways, reduce the inflammation you might be having, and return to your blissful normal. So lavender is our oil of relaxation. It's known for that, but it's also, it helps with inflammation, which is why we mix tea tree and lavender for like a little bug bite or a little rash, for example. And it is the oil of communication, so communicating from a heart-centered place. Then we have peppermint, which is known to be a cooling and antiseptic oil. That's why it's often in toothpaste, right? So peppermint is used also for sore muscles, sore joints, because it has this cooling effect. And it's also known as the oil of the buoyant heart. So lightheartedness, ease of finding happiness, which is kind of cool. And lemon, which is known for being very cleansing and uplifting, can also be used in this mix for allergies. And I like to have a little drop of lemon in my water. Instead of having lemon water, it's actually lemon oil water, but it works out nicely. It tastes really fresh, and it has the same cleansing effect as lemon water, and probably more efficient. All right, so I want to make sure we cover everything here. There are safety guidelines that I would like to show you. I'm going to pull them up here. I won't be able to go through them all in detail. Here we are. So this is what we were talking about: aromatic use, topical use, internal use. And then there's some oils that should be used with dilution. Some should be used with caution on sensitive skin, and some should absolutely be diluted before used topically. So as a general rule, you use a little bit less, 1 to 3 drops for adults. Start slowly, and you can always increase your dosage. Dilute oils in compliance with safety. So hot oils, for example, we'll scroll down to these. Those are warming oils that should always be diluted, like oregano, cinnamon, and clove. And there are some oils that are photosensitive, like anything citrus usually. So if you use it on your skin, or if you're consuming a significant amount internally, then you would give yourself, 12 to 24 hours before being directly exposed to UV, because you may have a reaction on your skin because it's making you photosensitive, just like the oil is from applying it directly on your skin, or again, consuming large amounts internally. Never ever put anything on your eyes, ears, or nose. That's just common sense, you think. And for any babies and children, a rule of thumb is a teaspoon of carrier oil for every drop. Every 1 drop, you use a teaspoon of carrier oil, and only ever start internal use for children aged 6 and up. Before that, just apply topically with a carrier oil. The skin will absorb it, and it'll be plenty sufficient for a child and a baby. Okay. And of course, if your skin is sensitive to an oil, use a carrier oil. Carrier oils, and you can't dilute for topical application with water, because oils don't mix with water. So yes, basically the carrier oils that you can use are anything from fractionated coconut oil, jojoba, grapeseed, almond oil, avocado, and olive oil. All right. So I'll go stop share. Here we go. Hi again. All right. So that was for safety. If you would like this safety handout, I can share it with you. I'll talk about how you can get your hands on that for reference at the end of our chat. And okay, so safety guidelines. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I personally chose to partner with a company called doTERRA. Now, there's a bunch of companies out there. Do your research. Choose the one that really rings true to you, the one with whom you align philosophically speaking, the one you like the blends of. Try them out. Decide the ones you want. I personally went with doTERRA because I really liked their philosophy. They know about this irregularity of quality on the market, and they decided to counter that in their own way by using certified, pure, tested grade oil. So they developed their own way of sourcing and basically testing the oils to make sure that they were always great quality, always safe, and always consistent. And they also work with, they have what's called co-impact sourcing. So basically they're working in partnership with all kinds of local producers all over the world and basically empower them to grow their businesses. And they source things in a way that's green and socially responsible. And more to the reason why I went with them is in part because of the food grade. That was really important to me, because the way I saw things is that if you can produce an oil that I should normally be able to eat, like an orange or a flower like lavender, and yet you tell me I can't eat it, then why would I put it on my skin, right? So I also wanted to become kind of a bulk buyer because I use them for everything. I use them as cleaners in my home. I use them for my health. I use them on my skin and my products. And I also use them in my business because, as I said, I make my own sprays. I use them with my students in my yoga classes. And I wanted to ensure like the same level quality, but for a good price. So I decided to partner with doTERRA and become a wellness advocate. The ways in which you can partner with doTERRA are not strictly just partnering as a wellness advocate, though that's a wonderful option if you choose it. You can also decide to either just integrate the lifestyle by using the oils in your day-to-day, in your current habits, and just learning to shift your thinking to natural solutions and thinking about the prevention in health more than the repair. So thinking about healthcare as opposed to sick care, which I think will save you lots in the long run, energy, money, headaches. And of course, there's also what's called a share program. If you wanted to share these oils with other people without necessarily being a wellness advocate, you could also be rewarded with free products and ways to pay off the oils that you're currently using for yourself. So then how would you get these oils? I personally decided to go wholesale right away. You could buy retail, or you could buy wholesale. Wholesale basically just means that you get 25% off on everything you buy, and it's like Costco for oils. Why would you ever want to pay retail? And there are all kinds of really nice benefits, like the loyalty rewards program, where you can opt into this once you're a member. So this is entirely optional, but with the loyalty rewards, you get points back in order to get oils for free. And if you do opt for loyalty rewards programs, so what we call LRP, you get your shipping back in points as well, which is kind of nice. And for the wholesale, you have no requirement to buy, and you don't lose your status if you spend 6 months not buying anything for yourself. But you basically make it costs you $42 Canadian. This is for the Canadians. There's also an American version. And you get your 25% off right away. And as soon as you buy, depending on which oils you buy again, as soon as you buy 2 or 3 oils, you've made that discount back and paid yourself off, paid off the cost of registering as a wholesale. And that's good for an entire year. And at the end of that year, your renewal is not 42, it's just 32 Canadian. So that's pretty good. And then if that sounds amazing to you, we also have, I say we, because I've partnered with doTERRA. We also have kits that are pretty awesome. I'll try and show you what they look like. And those kits, again, are an option. They're not at all mandatory. You can sign up and just buy things independently if you'd like, or individually. But if you do decide to get a kit, it includes your membership, which is, again, a really nice perk. Let's see if I can share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so you can see here we have a few options. And for those of you who are super gung-ho, there's the every oil kit down here. They'll even tell you how much you save by getting the kit as opposed to getting all these individually. My favorite kit is the Home Essentials because, again, all these kits include your membership. But if you go with one of these two, you get a diffuser, which is really, really nice, a pedal diffuser, which is actually bigger than a lot of the ones that are sold online for like $40-ish. So there we go. The Home Essentials is this guy over here, and it includes 15 milliliter bottles as opposed to 5 milliliter bottles, which is it this one over here? Yeah. So the essential aromatics is very similar, but the bottles are smaller. So you get more bang for your buck by getting this one here. And if you do get one of these guys, and I highly recommend this one if you're considering a kit, then you basically have your membership waived. doTERRA assumes the cost of your $42 Canadian and throws it in basically for you along with your purchase here. So that's a nice perk. All right. So I believe I'm coming to the end of my material for you today. We discussed this, topical, internal, aromatic. There we go. Let's see. Did I have anything else? Oh, yes. Okay. So how to get the handouts. So I don't know if you remember, I mentioned that I have the safety guidelines for you, and I have the handout for my class today if you want to refer back to it. Okay, here we go. Here, so this little handout will give you information about essential oils, how to use them, even prompt you to do a little exercise as to how to use the oils for your greater health and benefit. And it explains a little bit of what I went over here, and then shows you more doTERRA listings and the kits I was telling you about, and a form if you're actually considering membership. Now, I want to show you, if you do want to check out membership, you can. Okay, can you see this? All right, here we go. So I have a page here on my website. If you go to brightstarwoman.com/membership or brightstarwoman.com and you go under essentials, essential oils, and membership, you'll get to this page, which is longer, but it also works. And then I explain step by step what you get from being a member, how to proceed, and I break it down for you, making it super simple, step by step. And if you have any questions for me, you could always drop me a line. You have my contact info at the bottom here, and I'm going to remind you how to get in touch. So basically, if you want to get the handouts and the safety guidelines, just pop on over to brightstarwoman.com, subscribe to my list, and then send me a quick email saying, hey, Mercedes, I signed up for your class, your Essential Oils 101. I have more questions, and I'd also like to get the handouts, and they're free. I'm happy to share them with you. And the other thing is that if you wanted to, so that's for the handouts and the safety guidelines. Okay. Now, if you do want to sign up as a member, again, I showed you which page to go on to, but again, the address is brightstarwoman.com/membership, and the steps are described there. And if you have questions after you read that, you can send me an email at hello@brightstarwoman.com. And I'm happy to hear from you if you want to comment on the video on YouTube or on Facebook when I share it there. Feel free to comment, ask questions. I encourage learning and community, so it'd be really great to get you all talking about essential oils. And if there's anything you'd like to learn in the future, you could also let me know. I'd like to make up a little video for you guys and basically teach and share and learn from you as well on essential oils, aromatherapy, perhaps even ways to cook with oils. I've heard that's a real thing. All right, so for now, I say thank you. Have a great time exploring these oils, and reach out if you have any questions. All right, namaste.